So, good evening, all of you, and welcome back to Excelsior Academy. Today, we are going to study the one more transporter is left, that is lactose permease, and then we'll start with the other membrane proteins which are produced by the bacteria and other different strains in order to survive. So, they actually cause infection to us. For example, you must have heard of about anthrax. I'm sure everyone must have heard of anthrax. So today we are going to study what are those bacteria, the infectious agent which causes anthrax as one example, and how exactly it is causing the infection, what is the mechanism behind it, everything. Okay. So let's start with our session today. So lactose permease. So lactose is a disaccharide made up of glucose and galactose. What it is? It is a disaccharide made up of glucose plus and galactose. Okay. Just remember here, and we always use D sugars. Always remember that whenever we talk about sugars, they are in the D form, dextrorotatory form. And when we talk about amino acids, it's always L form. Okay, so this is what is naturally occurring in our systems. Remember, D form of sugars and L form of amino acids. Okay, so lactose permease. So from the name itself, it is clear that the transporters over here is allowing lactose molecule from one part of the cell to the other, okay, from extra to intracellular. Okay, so it's a symporter. What does it a symporter means? What a symporter means? Anyone? Ramya?
Transport in same direction.
Very good. Transport two different molecules, okay, two different molecules in the same direction. So if we have a plasma membrane, symporters are there. So two molecules, let it be ions along with another molecule, or two molecules or two ions, it will be transported in the same direction. Now here also in this case, it uses proton gradient towards the cell to transport beta galactosides such as lactose in the same direction into the cell. So it's actually, from the name itself, it is clear that lactose permease is actually a enzyme. Okay, it is made up of 12 alpha helices and it is encoded by LAC-Y gene in the LAC operon. So do you guys have heard of LAC operon ever?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in that,
That
yes, in the LAC operon, so we have got Z, Y, A genes are there, right? If we see the operon, anyways, in detail we'll study. So in this case, one is your Z is for your beta galactosidase, okay, and the other one is your lactose permease. So here it is encoded by the LAC-Y gene of the LAC operon. Now the sugar lies in the hydrophilic core of the protein, which is accessible from the periplasm. Now what happens here? So on binding of the lactose, there is a conformational change which takes place and which makes the sugar binding accessible from the cytoplasm. Okay. So here we are talking about the lactose. Now what is the mechanism over here? So here what you have to understand is that it's not the first sugar which goes and binds. It is your H plus from the outside of the cell which binds. Okay. Now to the enzyme, so the enzyme is your permease over here. To that, your H plus ions from outside of the cell to the C terminal of the enzyme, it binds. Then the enzyme undergoes a conformational change. So what had happened till now? H plus ions from the outside of the cell has bind to the C terminal of the enzyme. Now this binding has caused conformational change in the lactose permease. Now this form of lactose permease can bind to lactose. So first binding in the lactose permease is of H plus ions, and then it is for lactose. So first H plus binds and then your lactose binds. Now this enzyme then everts and lactose is transported inwards. Okay. So theoretically it is clear now. Let's see in the figure how it is given. So if you see over here, you have got this as your lactose permease. So we see that lactose also and H plus also from outside has been shared Okay, so it means what? Both are going inside of the cell. Now this case, so whenever there is a H plus excess over here, it will go again back to the extracellular because so many H plus pumps are available. Now what you have to remember over here is that the proton pump can be inhibited by Cn minus. What is Cn minus? It is cyanide. Okay. So now it should be clear that if you want to kill bacteria, just put cyanide. Okay. So in the labs, we use sodium thiocyanide to kill bacteria. That is like, I don't want my buffer solution to have these microbial growth. So we use sometimes sodium thiocyanide we use, or sometimes we use sodium azide also. And these are very, very deadly, okay? People also can die. So even if you take by mistake, it's very lethal. Okay. So that was all about the lactose transporter. There's one more figure which is more precise. So this is the exact mechanism used by the lactose permease. So what is the first thing? So you have got the lactose permease, okay, and it is made up of 12 alpha helices. Please remember every time. So now you have got a H plus from the outside which goes and binds to your C terminal of the protein. Okay. Now what protein they're talking about? It is the lactose permease. Now once it binds, the conformational change is there to which your lactose comes and binds. Okay. Now the change is happening. What is happening after that? The enzyme is able to remove the lactose inside of the cell. Okay. Now once this has been taken, your H plus is also taken in, and the lactose permease will go back to its original position. Okay, original state. Now, is it clear this much about the lactose permease? Yes, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good. So that was all about the lactose permease. Now we are going to start a new topic, that is pore forming toxins. But again, these are coming related to your membrane transport only. Okay. So here you can see the pore forming toxins means these are the toxins which are released or produced by the bacteria in order to, kill the host. So from here itself, the name itself says that it's pore forming toxins. The toxins, they are of protein in nature, as I mentioned before also once about the snake venom. So they are actually polypeptide, right? So they are nothing but proteins only. So all your toxins are maximum time the proteins. So they form the pore. Pore means on the cell membrane of the host cell, they actually form the pore. What will happen if suppose some holes are there? So all the cytoplasmic ions, nutrients which are present in the host cell, it will be released out and the host cell die. Okay. So let's talk about the pore forming toxins. So for example, bacteria like Clostridium septicum and Staphylococcus aureus, they produce proteotoxins. It means the toxins are made up of proteins that make numerous unregulated pores in the cell membrane of the targeted to kill them. Now so there are many are there, out of which they have been classified into 5 categories. And each category, one example is there, and we are going to talk about those examples. That's it. Okay, so after this topic, there is one more topic about the exo and endocytosis, and then membrane potential. So this week we'll complete this topic and we'll start with biomolecules. Yes, so back to the pore forming toxins. So pore forming toxins over here, first one is alpha pore forming toxins and beta pore forming toxins. So what difference they are talking about? They're talking about alpha helices over here, and in this case it is made up of beta sheets. Okay, then you have got the binary toxins. Cholesterol dependent cytolysins. It means what? Where do you see maximum cholesterol on the plasma membrane? Where do you see maximum cholesterol on the plasma membrane? I'll give you one hint. It is also used by cholera toxin. Yes. Now, who can tell me the answer?
Lipid rafts.
Very good. So there in the lipid rafts, you find maximum cholesterol to which these toxins, for example, like nemolysins goes and attach. So remember how cholera toxin goes and binds. So they make sure in the lipid rats, the cholesterol, the receptors are there. The toxin goes and binds over there. Same mechanism in the case of nemolysin. Okay. So nemolysin is produced by your Streptococcus pneumoniae. Then we have small pore forming toxins. Examples, gramicidin A. Now, small pore forming toxins means they are in the plasma membrane, so they produce small peptide like this. Okay, they get integrated into the plasma membrane, then they assemble together and big pore is formed. Okay, so I mean, maybe my diagram is not clear, but eventually we'll study about this. So let's start with our alpha pore forming toxins. Okay, so the example taken over here is about the cytolysin, and it is produced by E. coli. Okay. Okay, so this is going to be a little complicated. Bear with me. Yes. So to start with this, let's say that it's over here. Okay. So you have got the gene for this. Okay. Now, two subunits have been produced. That is your large subunit and the small subunit. So LS stands for large and small subunit of the cytolysin. Okay. Now what is happening? So they are modified with the help of the protein called CYLM, which is meant for post-translation modification. Now, what kind of post-translation modification they are talking about? The addition of sugars or modifying the structure of the protein so that it becomes more potent. Okay. So this has been done with the help of the gene, help of the protein CYLM. Okay. Then these modified subunits are taken and secreted out with the help of the beta protein, okay, B protein. So which is coded by CYLB. So you can see that how many genes are responsible for producing these cytolysin. So first one is the genes which is going to code L large subunit and L small subunit. Then for post-modification, post-translation modification, the gene involved is CYLM. These modified subunits are then transported outside, that is extracellular. Correct. So the bacteria, when it is infecting, whatever the toxin is there, it has to be produced inside the cell of the bacteria and then it has to be released outside in the extracellular so that to the host cell it can attack. Now, so it has been secreted and the signal has been removed. Now, what signal they're talking about? The signal to be released outside. So each protein, whenever it is synthesized, it has got its signal. For example, signal to be a part of plasma membrane or to be secreted out. So there is a signature signal over there which actually gives them the direction. So now what is happening? They are inactive subunits. They are modified, matured, but they're inactive. Okay, they cannot cause now the infection. So for that, we have got the production of proteases. Okay, so what proteases will do? They are going to activate these two subunits, small and large subunits, with the help of the proteolysis A enzyme. Clear? Then once they are activated, they are going to cause the infection. So they become the active subunits. They go and bind, they go and combine together and make a pore on the host cell. Okay. So it can be the human cell or whatever the targeted bacterial cell, the other bacterial cells to which they are targeting. Now, let me repeat once again. So what is happening over here? The genes are there which coded for the large subunit and small subunit, LL and LS. They are modified with the help of CYLM. Modification was post-translation modification. Okay. Then they are grouped together and secreted out with the help of CYLB protein. Then these are inactive subunits which are released in the extracellular space, right? Now to activate them, the protease has been produced, which makes them activated by proteolysis coded by A, CYLA. After that, they become active. So once they're active, both the large subunit and the small subunit come together and they form a pore on the human host cell or the other bacterial cell. Now, the problem is that the components or the composition of plasma membrane is same for the bacteria and the human, right? Plasma membrane both are made of phospholipids. So there are chances that these large subunit and small subunits might attack the bacteria itself. To regulate that, to prevent that, we have got this regulatory protein. Okay, so they make sure that these subunits are not killing themselves, and for that they have got CYL R1 and R2. Okay, is it clear till here? Huh? And they provide the immunity. The last one is the immunity, that is immune to, they are immune to themselves. So these activated subunits will not attack themselves. Okay, is it clear how cytolysin is produced and how it is attacking? Clear?
Yes.
Yes. It will be clear once we all complete this thing and just go through once again. Again, if suppose
Yes, ma'am.
anything is there, you can ask. Yes, good. So let's move on. So whatever just now I have said, it is given in the written form also, so that you know you can just go through it and understand. So I'll just go through once. So it is a model expression of the cytolysin E. faecalis. These are the Enterococcus bacteria, whether E. coli or E. faecalis are there. So both of these Enterococcus organisms, they produce cytolysin. So the toxin subunits LL, LS are ribosomally synthesized in the precursor form, and they are post-translation modified by CYLM, which introduces modification characteristics of the lantibiotic class of bacteriocins. Okay, so this is not needed to remember because we have got thousands and thousands of antibiotics and different classes. So just remember that they are cytolysin produced by Enterococcus bacteria. Now these modified peptides are further processed and secreted by CYL and B. Now they serve as ATP binding transporters. Remember the previous class we talked about the ATP binding cassettes, that is ABC transporter. So your CYL is your ABC. It means what? To secrete out this cytolysin, you need nucleotide binding domain, that is ATP is required. Okay. Now the matured externalized peptide subunits undergo activation by CYLA through the proteolytic cleavage. Now this removes identical 6 amino acid residues from N terminus of each subunit and they give you the activated form. And finally, the CYLI, it confers self-immunity from the action of the cytolysin, that is preventing the action of these cytolysin on its own cell. And the expression is regulated by R1 and R2. Okay, so this is just the explanation of the figure what we have just discussed now. Now the beta pore forming toxins. So till now we were talking about the alpha pore forming toxins because your proteins are the made up of alpha helices. Now in the case of beta, they are made up of beta strands. Now the beta pore forming toxins are dimorphic. They are dimorphic proteins. So what does dimorphic proteins means? Dimorph means, what is the meaning of dimorph? Anyone? What is the meaning of dimorph? It means
External.
Yes, it means what?
External morphological.
No, it's not clear to me. It means that it has got two forms of proteins. Okay, two forms of proteins are there. Now it is made up of beta strands and it has got the domains that are soluble monomers and assembled to form the pore. Okay, so it means what? When you say the soluble monomers, it means that the bacteria is able to produce these proteins and they are released extracellular, and whenever they come in contact with the host, they just go and bind to the receptors and make a pore. Okay, so these pores disrupts the regulated gradient of ions and small molecules of the cytoplasm and allowing continuous outflow along with the nucleotides and amino acids. So it means what? The cell is there and the pore has been formed. So whatever was present in the cytoplasm now will go out. Eventually what will happen? The cell will die, correct? Now this also results in the osmotic change, because of which maximum amount of water will be taken in, and it can cause the death because of bursting of the cell. So remember the edema we get sometimes because of certain toxins. So your portion, it starts swelling. So actually during edema, most of your parts, they swell. It means that most of your cells has been burst out, and now your body is recovering by taking those cells and recovering from that. Okay. So most of the disease what we get will be clear to us now. So this is a figure over here. Yes, you can see that first of all we have got these proteins over here. Okay, and they are called these pore forming proteins are there. Now what happens is that they go and bind to the receptors. Okay, so we have got the lipid receptors. Once these inactive pore forming proteins goes and binds to the receptors which are present over here on the plasma membrane, they become activated. Finally they start becoming a assembly. So all the single monomers, soluble monomers, will start getting the assembly, and then they finally become the pore. So you can see that first it becomes the pre-pore intermediate, then it gets inserted into the membrane, and finally it becomes a pore, and during which in the pore either there will be release out of the K plus protein or ATP or large molecules, finally resulting in the death of the cell. Okay, this was very simple. You have got a pore forming proteins which goes and binds to the receptors. It gets activated, they get assembled and forms a pore, through which all the important molecules from the cytoplasm has been taken out. Clear? This was simple, right? As compared to the alpha pore forming toxin. Next, binary toxins. Now this is important one. It consists of component A and component B. Okay, so now the function of component A is to have enzymatic component, and the component B is going to have your membrane altering component. It means what? Here it's not a single protein which is produced. 2-3 proteins are produced together having different functions when they are produced together. If single protein is produced, it has no activity, biological activity, but when they are produced in all the combination, it has got the activity. Okay. So component B forms the homo-oligomeric pore that facilitates the entry of the component A to the cytosol, where it inhibits the following normal biological process. Okay. So what is the membrane altering component means? On the membrane, it is forming the pore, and component A will go inside and do the enzymatic action. It's mainly because of the proteolytic activity. So here we are going to talk about the example anthrax toxin. Now, which bacteria produces anthrax? This was very famous. I have given the clue also. So what does SARS stand for?
Severe acute respiratory syndrome.
Very good. And again, it was in China. So they got contained and controlled, and now corona is also because of China. Yes, and that time onwards, that time onwards, also Chinese people, they started wearing the mask. Okay, because again it was airborne, and now also it's the same condition now. Anyways, so which bacteria produces anthrax toxin? It is Bacillus anthracis. Simple. Anthrax is from the Bacillus anthracis. Okay. Okay. So now, now we talk about the toxin. So again, it is a protein. Okay, and it has got 3 parts, and those parts are called PA, EF, and LF. Now, if only PA is produced, it cannot cause the infection. If only EF is produced, still cannot. If these two are produced, it causes edema. And if P and LF is produced, then it is lethal. Okay. But if all the three are produced, then they're definitely death. Getting the point? So protein has got three components. It's called PA, which stands for protective antigen. And then the two enzyme factors are there called edema factor and the lethal factor. So PA, protective antigen, then edema factor, lethal factor. Okay. Now, to have all the biological or physiological effects of the anthrax toxin, all the three protein components must act together. Okay. So this much is clear. So anthrax toxin comes under your binary toxin category. Okay. It has got three components: PA, protective antigen, edema factor EF, and lethal factor LF. Okay. Now let's see how it works. So this, as I mentioned before, if you have got the lethal factor and protective antigen, it becomes your lethal toxin. If you have PA and edema factor, that is EF, it has edema toxin. Now all the three are produced, what happens? It is causing the death of the cell. Okay, so both lethal as well as edema toxin will be produced. Okay, so what is the mechanism behind that? So in this case, what happens is your assembled complexes containing the toxin components are endocytosed. So when the protein components are produced, they go and bind to the host cell receptors and they get endocytosed. It means what? Endocytosis is taking place. Now they go and fuse with the lysosome and becomes the endosome. Correct? Then the enzymatic components of the toxin translocate into the cytoplasm of the target cell. So you have got the cell, here receptors were there, all these components got endocytosed. It goes and binds to the lysosome to become the endosome, and from the endosome, these toxin gets transported into the target cell, that is in the cytoplasm. They come out from the endosome into the cytoplasm. Now once they are in the cytoplasm, the enzymatic components of the toxins, that is EF and LF, they disrupt the immune cell functions. So all the cellular signaling and the cell migration has been stopped. So your macrophages, your neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, nothing will work now. So finally, it can evade the immune system and proliferate. Ultimately, it kills the host animal. Okay. Now let's see the figure. From here, it will be more clear to you guys. Yes. So you see that over here, this is your Bacillus anthracis, the bacteria which produces. So it has produced the exotoxin. So let us say that this is LF, blue color is your EF, and this color is your PA. Okay. Now, so what is happening is, one second. Okay. So now we talk the PA, LF, and EF is there. Now, when they are near to the host cell, these are the receptors. Can you see? ATR receptors are there, to which these PA heptamer is bound. To the PA, either your EF or LF can bind. If both are present, both will bind and it will get endocytosed. Once it is going under, it has been endocytosed, what will happen? These EF and LF factors will come out into the cytoplasm. Now the EF can go and bind to the calmodulin. Remember what is calmodulin? Meher, what is calmodulin? We have discussed this thing. Yes, anyone else?
It will reduce the calcium.
It will
decrease the calcium content.
Inhibitor of calcium, ma'am.
No, it is not the inhibitor. It is a calcium binding protein. It's a calcium binding protein. It doesn't increase or decrease. Okay. It's just a calcium binding protein. Now, when it goes and binds with the calcium, it actually, what it does is, there is an enzyme called cyclic adenylate. Okay. So that will increase the concentration of CAMP, cyclic AMP, and finally it causes edema. Now, if suppose it was lethal factor, it affects your, it decreases your MAP kinase pathway. So this you will study when we start with the cell signaling. So MAP kinase pathway, and finally it causes the death of the cell. Okay, is it clear this much? Should I repeat? Till here it is clear, right? That it has got the three components. It forms the heptamer to which either your EF or your LF will go and bind. These two will get endocytosed, and when they are under the endosome, both the factors of EF and LF will come out into the cytoplasm. Now, when EF it is there, it goes and binds to the calmodulin, where calmodulin is calcium binding protein. It activates your adenylate cyclase enzyme, okay, which increases the concentration of CMP and finally causes edema, that is swelling. Now, if it is a lethal factor, then it decreases the MAP kinase activity. Okay. Now, when MAP kinase activity is decreased, all the cellular functions has been stopped, and hence it leads to the cell death. So finally, what is happening? Your anthrax toxin is killing the host cell. Eventually, you get all the infections, and as a human, you die. Okay. So any more doubts over here? Okay. So that was all about the anthrax toxin. It means we were talking about the binary toxin. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the fourth type of pore forming toxins, that is cholesterol dependent cytolysins. Okay, so already we know that cholesterol we find mainly in the lipid rafts. Now here also they form the beta barrel forming exotoxins, and they are secreted by gram-positive bacteria. Please remember, gram-positive bacteria only. Now, they are secreted as water-soluble monomers, and when they bound to the target cell, they form a circular homo-oligomeric complex containing as many as 40 or more monomers. So, example here it is nemolysins, okay, from the bacteria pneumoniae, okay. So, cholesterol-dependent cytolysins. Cytolysins are nothing but your, remember the example which we studied in the case of E. coli or Enterococcus faecalis, cytolysins, alpha pore forming. But here in the case of cholesterol, it is beta barrel. An example is nemolysins. Okay, so look at the figure over here. So, nemolysin is a putative virulence factor. What do you mean by virulence factor? Which actually gives the ability to cause infection. Okay. Gram-positive bacteria such as Streptococcus pneumoniae. So nemolysin from Streptococcus pneumoniae. So you see that in the case where there is no 0% cholesterol, it cannot bind. Even if you have 30% of cholesterol, it is able to bind over here. Okay. And if you see this figure, these are your beta sheets. Okay. Instead of having like this, now you have got beta sheets like this. You can see that it is interacting with your cholesterol molecule. So wherever cholesterol is there, it starts interacting with that. Now, nemolysin can lyse and interfere with the function of cells and soluble molecules of the immune system. You can see that again, like your anthrax toxin, even nemolysin is able to evade the immune system. So this will aid the bacteria during colonization by facilitating adherence to the host. It means what? It can help in attachment during the invasion by damaging the host cells, and during infection by interfering the host immune response. So they help in the attachment to the host cell, and finally they make a pore into the host cell membrane, causing the virulence factor, causing its virulence. Okay, now this is more clear picture. So you see that over here we have got this nemolysin. Okay, you can see that these are the monomers of nemolysins. Now, wherever they find the lipid rafts, the associated receptors, they form a pre-pore complex on the lipid rafts. These are your lipid rafts. So you can see that over here, it's more than 40 monomers of the nemolysins. Now, wherever cholesterol is present, that is on the lipid raft, it gets inserted. So you can see that this yellow color things are the cholesterol. Okay, and the pore is formed. Now just imagine this much gap is there. It is so easy for the cytoplasmic ions, nutrients to move outside, right? Now, what is the inhibitor over here? The inhibitor to nemolysin is statin. It is the inhibitor. Please remember, okay? So I'll just repeat once again. So you have got the nemolysin as monomers. Then it goes and attaches to the lipid rafts, gets inserted with the help of the cholesterol and forms a nemolysin pore complex. So you can see this much gap won't be there and all the nutrients will be passed outside. Now, in order to inhibit nemolysin, we have got the inhibitor called statin. Okay, clear? Now,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, good. The thing is like there are so many things to remember. So that's why I always keep on saying that keep on reading, keep on studying, okay? Because at the end, so much of information. Don't get confused. Which toxin is acting in which way, okay? Now, this is the host repair mechanism. If suppose the host cell, see now already said that these nemolysins are able to evade the immune response. That means that the macrophages, all the neutrophils, basophils, they are not able to come and help, correct? So what as a host cell can do? So what they do is wherever they form the complex, the nemolysin cholesterol complex is formed, what they do is, this is interesting. So you can see that they go and they come and bind and they form the pores. Okay. So this pore is formed, which is resulting in the loss of ions and nutrients. So how does the host cell decide to repair itself? So what it can do is wherever the nemolysin has been attached, okay, just pinch off that and throw it. See, that is what we do. Suppose something gets infected, we just cut that portion out and we throw it off, right? Suppose your potato is there while cooking, while peeling, you saw some black spots are there. So what we do, we just cut that portion and remove. In the same way, host cell, what it is doing is, see, it has detected that the pore has been formed over here. If the host continue to have the nemolysin, what will happen? All the ions and nutrients will go out extracellularly, right? So what the host cell can do is it can pinch off this portion off and the plasma membrane can join over here. So what it has done, wherever the pores were there, that much plasma membrane has been pinched off and removed. And finally, that will be degraded with the help of the other proteolytic enzymes. Getting the point? So it means what? This much portions has been pinched off and removed. So this is now removed. Is it clear how the cell is undergoing the repair mechanism? Yeah, I'll just say once again. Okay, good. Few people understood. So you had the nemolysin. Okay, it goes and binds to the receptors. So with the help of the cholesterol, it forms the pore. Now, if the host cell continues to have this pore, what will happen? All the cytoplasmic ions and nutrients will be washed off and the cell will die. In order to repair that, what the host cell will do, it will just pinch off that portion wherever the pores are present and it will seal over here. Okay. So plasma membrane will seal over here. So the outer will bind to the outer, inner will bind to the inner. And this will also study in the case of endocytosis also. So what are the proteins which are result in this pinching off? They are called clathrin. Just additional information, eventually we'll study, don't worry about it. So this much portion of the plasma membrane has been removed. or the shed vesicle. Okay, so now the host cell membrane is free of these cholesterol dependent cytolysin pore complex. Okay, so when it's like prey predator relationship. So when prey is becoming when the predator becomes more intelligent, prey will also become intelligent to survive. So all this, like, it's like a co-evolution. It is also called co-evolution. Okay, so to survive, you will do something, I'll also do something. So it's just like, you know, going up and up. So co-evolving also. Good. So this is the last topic, the small pore forming complex. Okay, so I already mentioned about this, that it is having the small complex they form on the plasma membrane. Finally they get evolved. So it is also called gramicidin D. This is one example. It is a mixture of ionophoric antibiotics. So what are ionophores? They are nothing but the proteins which carry ions. Okay, just remember. Now in the next class we'll talk about the different types of ionophores. So gramicidin A, B, C. So again, it is the complex of these three, which is about 80%, 5%, and 15% mixed respectively. Now, they can be extracted from Brevibacillus brevis soil bacteria. Now, what you have to understand here is that these bacteria, they produce toxins, correct? So they produce toxins in order to in order for their survival, right? So what as humans we do is we isolate the toxin from one bacteria to use against other bacteria. Okay, so this is how we, you know, we have emerged with the so many thousands of antibiotics. So sometimes the antibiotics are not working, it means they are becoming resistant. Remember the discovery of penicillin? So the same way, so they have cultured the fungus and the bacteria together, and then they found that the penicillin is very effective against the bacterial cell wall. It can kill the bacteria. So this is how many of the bacteria, they produce secondary metabolites. These antibiotics are nothing but the secondary metabolites produced by the bacteria. So one bacteria's secondary metabolite will be toxic to the other. So we make use of that. So in your colleges also, when you're doing experiments like projects and all you're doing, so mainly we as a faculty, we give first experiment this only, like identify the bacteria, isolate and identify the bacteria of your given soil. Okay, so you can take your any soil you can take, don't take the normal ones. I prefer taking, you know, the soil from the underneath water, like for example in the ocean you go and take that soil from there, so you can get halophiles and all. They will produce extraordinary secondary metabolites. Like I have done that research, that's why I'm telling. So then you have to isolate and identify the bacteria, let them grow to a stationary phase, and in the stationary phase they will produce the secondary metabolites, and then you can extract that secondary metabolites and you can see against which multi-drug resistant bacteria it can work. This is how the discovery of antibiotics starts. Okay. Okay, so back to the gramicidins. So gramicidins, they are the linear peptides with 15 amino acids. Okay. So what is happening? It's a linear chain of protein, and then it becomes coil and forms the pore on the plasma membrane of the host cell. Yes, so this is how the structure looks like of gramicidin. Don't worry, you don't have to study the structure. So you can see the small peptides has been formed over here. The structure says that it is forming the alpha helices. Okay, remember. So just remember, whenever you're studying what are making alpha helices and what toxins are making beta sheets. So in this case, again, it is making small alpha helices, and then they combine together to form the complete channel so that it can cause the infection. Okay. Now this is the mechanism. So it acts as an ionophoric substance. It means what? It leads. So whenever this channel is formed, okay. So small over here, small over here. When they combine together, a long channel is formed, making a pore in the plasma membrane. And when you say it is an ionophoric substance, it means the important ions like calcium, K+, Na+, they will be transported. So the gramicidins, they self-associate, thus forming small pores, and they cause the leakage of essential cations from the cytoplasm. So you can see that small non-conducting monomers are formed. Finally, they come together to form the conducting dimers. Okay, so thank you for listening. If any questions are there, you can ask me right now.